Okay, hi, I'm Christy. This is the continuation of the video of this. I went ahead and ran this wire through here because it was hooked to here and causing a big leak down here, I think. I resealed that for now, which we might end up undoing today, but I moved it over here and I had to clip off the old end on it and crimp a new one on, and I bolted it to there so that of course it won't be there no more. And when I was looking at this, I'm like, how does that go? I think it actually goes in some manner or another down below and behind, so it can go down over here, but I'm not sure how yet. If I had to guess, maybe like that. That looks kind of good. Should get that away from there. And that's a throttle cable, so I can't bend that too much. We'll have to play with that when we get to that point. I was just catching you up. So I think what I'm going to do, before I tear this thing down further, I want to figure out what the compression is, so I know what state it's in, to compare to if we actually make it work or not, or if there's any difference at all. And it'll tell me how the ring health and cylinder health is on this thing, which would be super helpful. Let me see if I can find my compression real quick. My honing set, that'll be useful later. For now, I'll put it down here. Grab my actual cylinder compression testing. And let's see about putting this back on. At least temporarily, so I can get proper compression with any luck. This thing takes a lot of tools. Okay. So to get this back on here, I'm going to have to pull the screws. No, I don't think I will, actually. Where the heck did they go? There's one there. Did it drop out? No. Ah, I outsmarted myself. I put them back in here so I wouldn't lose them. That makes sense. Since this keeps falling off, unless, oh, it does connect to there. So we'll go ahead and put that back on there. And we'll grab our screwdriver and pull these guys out. I really need to figure out how that's going to pass. Maybe we'll get to that whenever we put this back on and get some idea how it's going to go back in. Those aren't tight at all. Ah, perfect. That might save a little time. Okay. Now comes the fun part. So we got this hole here that pipes the exhaust through the whole business here, which is a little unusual, but if you were watching the first part, you'd know that it does that already. Or you just blinked out like I do sometimes. So that's all good. Different brands do different stuff. I have worked on a homelite brand before. I think it was a weed eater. No. Let's see. I have worked on 2 weed eaters that was homelite and 1 featherlight by homelite. That was a blower. But none of them did this. course, you know, there's nowhere to pipe it besides the exhaust. So. But still a little bit unusual. All right. So since that's the intake instead of the exhaust, it should be fine for it to come out like that. So I think that might work, but I don't like the pressure on the little gas bulb here. Let's see how we can get this arranged. Try it this way. Yeah, that works better. 'Cause then that can just fit right there whenever it's going. Just future planning. Okay. That looks like it goes in there. That goes in there. What I'm doing now is trying to see if the screws are lining up with the holes in the actual case. Hard to tell. Let's see where they are. It looks like it is. Let's put it on and find out. Oh no, I lost the screws forever. In the hole they go in. That feels like it's actually doing something there, so. I can't really see in there. I'm working blind. Can't tell if it's doing anything, I don't think so. Move on. That went in. And that lined up. At least made a noise. It feels like it's got ditch on it. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And dropped in. Okay, so that's starting to tighten up. So this is the only one that hasn't done the thing yet. Wiggle. I'm just wiggling this around as I screw it in, hoping it drops down into, there it goes.
In the spot.
Yeah. I'm not going to tighten it all the way at the moment. I just want to verify everything that I possibly can and that nothing's hanging up anywhere. Yeah. See, if I was actually putting that together, I'd have to take it back apart. Unless I can just slip it over. Oh, yay! Look at that. And then that goes neatly right in there. But that will be fine because I'm not actually starting it right now. In fact, it might actually be better over there so it's not interfering with that cable. Go somewhere, anywhere. All right. There's no gas in it. There's no spark plug. So, it should not be a problem. I'm gonna open up this. Because what you need for combustion to make the engine work is, of course, air, gas, and fuel. Since it has no fuel and it has no spark, which I guess is the next one, air, gas, which is fuel. So air, fuel, spark. There we go. I got there. It has no fuel and no spark, then it doesn't have two of the conditions it needs to actually run. Alright. Does this actually have... It does, but I don't know if I can get to it. Alright. I'm peeking down here to make sure the butterfly is fully open as much as I can, considering there doesn't seem to be much in the way of a throttle. I can see. There it is down here. Okay, so that's closed actually, and that's fully open. So I'm going to have to do something about that. Because when you're doing compression testing, ideally you'll have the throttle wide open so that it can get as much air in there as you can so you can get an accurate reading. So I'm looking for something I can line that up with. So I think I'm gonna see if I can't use it. I don't want to use one of those. I mean, it's a good idea, but I want something more temporary. So I might try a wire wrap. And in here, I don't know if you can actually see that or not, a little metal piece that's down there. I'm going to wrap it around there, hopefully, and then I'm going to wrap it around here to pull that backwards so that it's in the full throttle state, like that. And that should hold it open. And there's a lot of shouldas and all that, but we'll see how it goes. Oh, it does let me hook around it. Nice. Now, the tricky part in the dark. Okay, that over like that. And actually, I might just twist it here because otherwise it'll just slip right back off before I even get to the next part. Kind of like it's doing right now. Come on. There we go. Get my finger behind it to hold it there. This is probably something I should have done before I took and put the motor in the case, but that's okay. We're here now. We'll make do. So now with the throttle fully open, I take one of these pieces of my wire and wrap around it. And then I go over here at the other part and I wrap around it there. Any luck, we can get it to maintain some kind of tension there without coming off like it just did. So far, I'm batting 1,000. But let's wrap it around there. Not really. So cooperative, this thing. Okay. Somewhere around here I have a needle nose. Right there it is. Let's see if I can cheat. And intentionally pull up some of that tolerance. I see. I think it's something to do with my wire wrap right here. Well, that is a complete failure. Can't win them all, I guess. All right, so plan B didn't work. Let's go with plan A. Get all this off here. See how easy that was to get back off there? That's why I wanted to do it that way. But I can probably get better tension using this. Because it zips. problem will be to get a hold of that throttle like that in a way that's meaningful and will work. I'm trying to push it back on that little bar that's there, and I got to get the throttle in full throttle around that part like that. And while it's at full throttle, I gotta cinch it up. Don't do that, go back around it. Oh, thank you. And if you're lucky, you have an extra pair of hands to help you do this. All right. There we go. And no, it might not be professional, and no, it probably won't stay, but I don't need it to. I only need it to stay as long as I'm doing this. So then we take our compression kit out. And let's see. Try to match our thread. It's gonna be standard. Pretty close. We'll try it and see. Yeah, looks like it is. Get that tight. Probably too tight. Perfect. Okay. This goes into this little meter. This meter has a check valve in it that allows you, of course, to undo the pressure, but it also holds the pressure so this little meter can read it. Now I'm gonna open it up just in case it had something on it, and it don't. Any pressure, I mean. And then as we crank this thing, this meter should go up. How much? I don't know. It also has a bar setting, which is used, other places. Here we're just going to use PSI. And actually, I'm going to maneuver this a little bit so I can actually crank it. Without it going crazy, hopefully. Do I gotta zip tie that too? Let's zip tie that too. Why not? It seems to be zip tied today. So that everybody can see what's going on here. Something like that, sure. Okay. It's tougher to do, and this handle's not great to hold on to. Wow. See the PSI on that thing?
Holy cow.
Sorry. Now I'm curious. How far are we gonna go? Good grief. What? Wow. I was looking for at least 80. 90 preferably.
Wow.
And I think 120 is new. So that makes me very curious. I've never had one that went that high. I have no idea why. I feel like if I kept cranking it, it'd keep going higher. Although it was kind of teetering off towards it, slowly going down. That is crazy. To me, at least. This thing probably has better compression than any car I've touched. are used, which is insane. So I think either something's very wrong here, my meter's malfunctioning, or the rings are really good. I don't know. So let's detach all of our gizmos here. And before you take this off, you can release the pressure of this little valve here. That's what his was. It goes back down to 0, which means you have no compression in there now. Was that like 191.7?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to research that.
Yeah.
I personally never ran into that. Not even with a new one. I don't know. I'm sitting here trying to figure that out. I know you can raise compression if you put oil in the cylinder beforehand, but I haven't done that. Although there is probably some residue oil and a lot of buildup of carbon. Because this thing had some nasty fuel in it and it wasn't running very well. After I put some new fuel in it, it ran great, but it was tinging, making a knock sound, which is interesting. I don't know what's going on. I'm going to have to look that up and get back to you folks, because I want to know before I tear into this deburr, because that might give me some clues as to what's going on with it. So I think that's all for now. Thank you. Okay, after doing some talking with an AI and then confirming it online, apparently carbon buildup on the top of the piston and what would normally be the cylinder head, but it's the actual cylinder, because in the 2 cycles it's all basically one piece. You have a cylinder, then you have the crankcase. Carbon buildup of 2 to 3 millimeters can cause the PSI to skyrocket, because it's both on the piston head and the top of the cylinder. And that can cause all kinds of issues. But primarily it can lead to your connecting rod breaking, your seals, giving up the ghost, because it can't hold the pressure, and your bearings wearing down. So it's not good that it has that grade of PSI, which is bizarre to me. Doing some more searches, I found out that for some cars and Haynes manuals, they actually tell you that buildup can lead to the high PSI, which I had no idea. It makes sense, because like if you squeeze a hose, it creates more PSI. But I didn't know that small amount and just carbon buildup itself could do that. Makes sense, but learned something new. So I guess we're going to tear it down and get that fixed. First of all, I'm going to start with releasing the throttle here. Make sure it still looks good. All right. And then we're going to take the case back off. Where were we? That's over here. That don't feel right. Did that screw just come right out? It did. It wasn't all the way tight. Figures. That's where that extra screw I was messing with. Wondering what the hell it went to earlier. Alright, next one. But it was tight enough to crank it, so. And wow, did it ever crank. Got to learn something new. I love that. I really wouldn't have thought that. There's one. last one out. It's over here, like so. I'm just gonna scoop this over. I'll put the screws back so I can wonder where they went next time and find them back where they're supposed to be. Don't know if that's right or not. Normally they don't tighten up that fast, but we're not working with plastic space between it normally. No, that one freely goes down. I wonder if the threads are messed up or something. See if it's a screw or the thing it's going into. Okay, it's just that one thing, the threads might be funky. That's okay. I don't like that. I don't like that one bit. I'm gonna actually reverse it till I feel the threads drop back down. And they will tell me when I've hit the starting thread. I think it's right there. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. I think somebody's cross-threaded this once. Just judging by how it's going in and being funky. Alright, well. As my favorite shade tree mechanics say, cross thread's better than no thread. We'll just go with it. Put these down a little bit so they don't fall out. Okay, good enough. Now we need to figure out what screws. Looks like you've got one screw here. Oh yeah, the muffler spring and this piece fell off. Where'd the spring go? Well, that's always fun. I don't see it. Ah, magnet caught it.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, it's like that. Alright, I'm gonna put that right over there with that piece. Almost running out of real estate over here, huh?
Yeah.
Alright, so what I can tell, there's some more. Alright, normally there's one on each side. One right here, one right here, one right here, and one on that side. This one looks like it only uses 3. 2 on the side, 2 on this side, and 1 on this side. It's a little bolt you see there.
Mm-hmm.
That's what holds this on. But in order to get to those, I'm going to have to remove the tank again, which is going to require me removing this, which I sealed yesterday with the sealant. So hopefully that gasket is tolerant and doesn't just go to pieces. Then I'll be replacing a gasket, unfortunately. That's okay. We'll just open the crankcase and see where we're at. Actually, I can go ahead and loosen all of them a little bit so it doesn't warp or anything like that. Which I don't think it will. There's not enough oomph on this thing to do something like that, but the reason I'm removing the top ones before the bottom ones, because the bottom ones is what holds the gas tank in. Okay, temporarily place these over here. What I'm really curious about, because I don't remember at the moment, where that big screw goes right there. But I have one screw that's just hanging out, and it has a home. But at this very moment, I don't know where that home is, and that's not good, but I'm sure I'll figure it out when I put it back together. And that's something I'm going to have to keep in mind, which is also why I try to keep things like that are loose up towards the front of where I'm working. Because sometimes these things act like they have a mind of their own and they'll try to escape at any chance it gets. I can keep my eye on them, see? No, it's just so I can remember they're there, that they need to go back in somewhere. All right, here goes the fun part. Yay! This stuff is some real good stuff for carburetors and things like that. Palomar Blue. Not sponsored. Oh, shoot. It's just, they're really good for specific gas purpose things. Let's see if this will let me take this hose off here. Yay! From cranking it, was trying to push gas there and don't have any gas, so I should have took the cap off the gas tank. That's okay. You know what? I think I'm going to do this differently. Because I want to know which pipe goes to which on here, and I want to know which pipe goes into there. So this pipe goes there, because it's just right there. Although I'll probably know by the long one that's sitting right there. But instead of pulling this off here, you know what? Never mind. I was thinking I could just pull it off of here instead. It's easier to get to, and it won't matter if this is just dangling here, but I'll go ahead and remove it because it don't matter. Because it's an obvious, really long pipe. I'm second guessing myself. I don't want to forget which way these go. It probably won't matter, and different manufacturers go different ways, but different setups want the pressure to be pulled out of the carburetor, and that pressure causes it to pull up into there. Other ones want you to push the fuel into there and the excess just come down in the tank. It doesn't really matter, but same thing happens either way. I'll try to obey. And I think that will be just fine like that. Get all the excess fuel out of there. Clean up my little bench here. And then get this out of the way. Now, got that out of the way. The next step, oh, I forgot the little feet. These feet hold the can. And they go on little prongs here. There's indentions on the tank to show where they go, basically. I think I'm going to use this cup. Pre-made cup for the related things. And before I forget where these go, I'm going to very gently try to put these back in here. So I don't want to mess up that gasket. And I could forgive myself if I didn't put them back in here just because of that. So it has the tacky sealant on it right now. This is a non-hardening, non-curing sealant. Good stuff. At least what the AI said. What is that? Little piece of something right there on that gasket. I don't know, but apparently it lives there now. There go my ego. Haha, I got it. Alright. Now we'll get that taken care of. 4 less screws to wonder about later. We're going to take off the muffler here, which, if I remember correctly, was in, was it? I don't think that was 11. That one was smaller. We'll try 11 millimeter. I don't think it is though. Seems a little bit large for that. Matter of fact, I don't have to. Why? Because I think I thought that I might have to do this again if I'm going to clean it further, and I didn't put it back. So I still have it, and it is an 8 millimeter. That 11 is a little bit too big. This is the unusual muffler that has this little weird stuff in it. I've never seen one that had this grainy, weird stuff in it. I guess so it can do muffler stuff. Jeez. Oh, that's a long screw. That looks like it has something on it. Metal? Huh. Sure. Feels like going to the doctor and they pull out this long needle. And you need a shot. It's got to go all the way through the muffler. And that's the gasket around it. But that little weird mesh ramen noodle looking metal in there is what I found unusual about this muffler. Alright, so let's go. I don't know if I want to put these back because it'll hang up on them and I don't want to break them or mess up threads or something, but I will anyway. Until I figure out that I don't want it anymore. Carefully inserting it in there. Yeah, I don't know if I included it in the full video when I get done, but I did take a smaller photo with it in my hands. It's kind of fumbly, a video, and I was pointing in here towards this piston and piston rings, and I was describing what I was looking at and poking at it with the pick just to see the current health of it. And I also looked down in here in the cylinder, and yeah, it had carbon buildup, but we're going to take a closer look at that today since we're taking all this off. Next up will be our carburetor. Oh, look how open that goes now. Yay! Take our filter out. Put that here for now. And inside there, we've got more bolts. That is how you get both the filter housing and the carburetor out, because these bolts that this is attached to actually go all the way down through here. And this one, okay, I see what they did. I'll show you when we get there, but they have a spacer between the actual cylinder here and the carburetor. And the cylinder the spacer, has screws that go through the back of it all the way through there. I was sitting here thinking, how do you get the screws out? Because normally the screws don't go in the cylinder like that. But what they did is they screwed this thing in separately. I'll show you the whole mechanism once we get there. It's different for sure. Those are bigger than that one. What is this one? This one is 14. So let's try the 11 on there, because I know some other parts took an 11. It might be 10. 10 is incredibly common, but we'll find out. And for this, I'm going to use the screwdriver, because I don't think those will be very tight. I'm going to bet on the 10. Let's find out. Close. I think it is. We'll check the 9. It could be. It's also not metric, and that's why it has a wobble to it. It'd be the SAE equivalent. But I think it'll do just fine. Because again, they aren't under any real heavy torque or anything. And in fact, somebody I know, definitely not me, has over tightened them before, and it cracks that little block back there. Okay, yes, everything. And that's how I know you don't want to over tighten these things. They're not under much tension. You also want to be careful when removing these, because I always have a fear it's going to go down the throat of the freaking carburetor. I'm going to lean it a little bit just so if it does come off there, hopefully it won't go in there. I'll just put my finger in there. Yeah. All right. So this is step 1. And judging by how it didn't just instantly come off there, I'm going to guess there's a gasket under there. And the gasket is adhered to the plastic. I'm just going to gently rock it and hope I can get it off there without messing anything up. Okay. Oh, it's connected to the carburetor too. The linkage. Check that out. So it connects here and there to there. But look how tiny of grip that has on there. I'm gonna have to undo all that, which is yippee, because I'm gonna have to redo it. Let me see. Is there any? Okay, so it just hits there and stops. So how much tension we got here? We should be able to do that just by ear. Well, I could go here and undo that, and then take the carburetor with the cable, or I can undo the cable from there and take that with that. I think I'm gonna do this one because I want to clean that. It's pretty gnarly. That's getting real wobbly really fast. Is that a short screw? If it is, I don't want it to go into the abyss, never be seen again, like so many before it. Okay. Sorry if I'm covering up the view. I don't want it to fly if I can prevent it. That's actually funny. By that I mean it's got some sideways tension on it. Slide that back down. See if I can. There we go. And then it should slide right out. And because that screw made me so nervous, I'm going to screw it back in. I don't want to lose that. That seems particularly important. Oh, it's got a hex head too. That's such a weird design. So instead of just having the Torx, which is this little guy here, it has a Torx and a flathead. It's the only screw I've seen so far that has both. I've seen Torx on here, which is what these guys are up here. I've seen Phillips, but I haven't seen that before. See if it's the same size Torx. It's not, it's smaller. I'm gonna go find one. I want to tighten that up and I don't want to strip it using the wrong size. So let's see what we got here. No. And that one is different size. That one's close. Let's try this one. That one's perfect. I bought a whole assortment on these things from the Jungle website, and they came in handy for the weed eaters and stuff, small engines. So I'm gonna keep that for this. Move this out of my way for later, and I'll put that there so I can clean it up. All right, now we're back to the carburetor. Carburetor has the linkage in here, and it looks like it's also a flathead and a Phillips, which is kind of cool. But by the same token, I want to try to use what it's friendly with. Of course, it would help if my screwdriver had 2 different size heads on it. Each thing. Okay, there's the flathead side. There's the Phillips side. There's the bigger one. Try the bigger one first. Yep, that works. See how cooperative it's being. I'm gonna just put my thumb here so it can't move around. Loosen it up and the cable comes right out. And I'm gonna tighten it back down. Ideally, I'll tighten it back down, but something's being dorky. I'm really hoping something under it isn't stripped or something. It should just be a, you hold it, you tighten it, it locks it in place type deal. All right, now you can somewhat see the spacer that's in there. There's one spacer here and one spacer here. So the carburetor doesn't even show the other part of the spacer, but we should be able to get this off now. There's the spacer. It has its own gasket. Put that off there. Keep these with it. You can see the hole there. That actually takes air that's channeled from inside the cylinder, and it pushes in there through these holes in this thing, which actually has channels on the back side. And you want to make sure to line it up with a hole that's actually there. Even though there's holes in the gasket, there's not actually a hole on that side. But you can already see the indentation there where it's pushed in the channel. And that would line it up there so that it can breathe. Otherwise, you won't get gas and try to use it. I might ultrasonic this, but I'm probably just going to clean it up by hand because it's working. And these little tiny things are fiddly. They have itsy bitsy parts. I have kits for it to clean it out. And I have a calibration kit, but if you don't have to, I wouldn't suggest doing this just for giggles. And they're not expensive, but still, why replace a part you don't have to? Speaking of which, this gasket has been permanently pressed into this other part of this. So, actually no, I have to take it off. So bitch. Alright. Since I have to take this part of this thing off, and I know how it works because it goes with the screws back there, but are they Torx or are they? Of course they're Torx. Okay. Since I know that though, I'm going to cheat. I'm gonna make holes for me to put the screwdriver through. So that way I don't mess up the gasket if I don't have to, and then have to replace it. How many screws we got where? We got one there, and one back here. Right in here. It's not right. There it is. Right there. Now we got a hole in it with my pick. Hopefully, I'll be able to cheat and use that hole without marring up the gasket too much. Or not, because it's hard as a rock. Fine. Let's see if I can get away with doing stupid stuff. I'm gonna try. Let's try an X-Acto knife. Let's try an X-Acto knife with a blade in it. How about that? And I'm gonna slide it under there. See if I can't separate it from there without shredding it. Because, like I said, I don't want to replace it. I don't have to. And I definitely don't want to remake it myself. I've done. If I don't have to. So we're going to be really careful and try our best to do this. Disclaimer, kids don't do this at home without supervision and all that stuff. Because yeah, why not? All right, what we're gonna do is we're gonna try, like right here, I'm just sliding it right in there to try to break it loose, like that. I'm gonna go around the whole thing very carefully and try to do the same thing without puncturing through it. This is particularly difficult because of these fun little screws that are already in it holding it, creating tension on it, undesirable way. Okay, it looks like it's actually going, which is nifty. Okay. Sorry, you guys can't see this, but bear with me. Okay, it looks like you're released for the most part. Definitely did on this side. Let's see if it's, oh, it looks like it's free. Look at that. We got it. We have a gasket. All right, put that right over here with our carburetor. Got another gasket. I'll keep it out for that. I normally want to put something sharp away, but we may need it in just a second, so for that sake, I'm gonna keep it out. But first, I'm gonna put the nuts back on here because they are definitely small enough to go find oblivion. A 10mm socket the size of that can do it, and these little guys sure can. Oh my, wow. I'm gonna guess that's age that did that. because there's no way, hopefully, that the manufacturer would do that. Unless they're super specific with the torque. And even then, that's I want to know how many they went through before they got the thing right. Boy, this is fun. Alright, time to be more cooperative. See if we can get a better angle on this. It moved! Yeah, the way it still has a lot of tension on it, that's age, I bet. Age or rust or something else. Because if it was just a very specific torque in a very specific way, it would have just came loose. It wouldn't have kept the resistance all the way through it. Now that is the remarkable ting of something that's been stuck for years, breaking free. Come on. Just like that. Okay. Don't like doing that with my screwdrivers, but I don't have a bit head for using those kind of screwdrivers or a wrench. I don't think I want to, just because things that use this type of bit are usually very sensitive to pressure. They're very easy to over tighten. Unless I forget. Yeah, the white stuff that's on there, I'm gonna bet that's some kind of Loctite. It could be carbon buildup or calcium, but either way, that's what was holding that in there so well. And it's also adhered to there, or not. It just came right out. Okay, cool. Little bits of fuel. And that is the spacer I was talking about. It has the weird doodads where you screw it in, and then these bolts right here, you just go through here, and that holds them steady so that the carburetor and stuff come out to there. I'm going to set that aside just for a second. This needs to go over here with this. And let's see how much fun we're going to be in for this gasket. Oh, we're going to be in for a lot. Looked like it tried to tear around the screw hole. So let's see if we can break this one free. I don't know if you can actually see into there or not. I have no idea. But let's see what we can get done. Pushing that very gently through there. It just popped. I don't know if that's good or bad yet. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be friendly. I may end up making a new one. Oh, joy. Let's see if I can get a hold of any of it. And persuade it to come off gently. And mostly one piece. That would be nice. I'm not meeting any resistance anywhere. I am there a little bit. And there. I can see it. Haha! Mostly intact. You can see right here where it started coming off there. But we got it off. And since we did get it off, I'm gonna go back. First, let's get rid of the excess stuff so that's not hanging out. That actually looks like they might have put some glue on there. But given how much force was on it, or time, I don't know. It could have just compressed it into that. Because that is all gasket right there. 100%. Gasket or glue. Yeah. And since I'm deep cleaning this cylinder, that's got to come off anyway. Whether or not I end up replacing the gasket. Trying to be gentle not to nick too much of the actual stuff. Metal, I mean. Good grief. Come off there. All right, good enough. Let's go back over here. The actual important part. Yeah, that's all gasket. And whether or not I get a new gasket or make a new gasket is going to depend on availability of parts and the cost, because I am not paying $90 for a little bitty 2-cycle engine gasket, especially when I can make it myself, even though it's going to be a pain. All right, should be clean enough for me to see how well this actually covers there. You can see right there, it's not doing it right. But I might be able to fudge it a little. Grab my wire cutters here, because that has a pretty tall foot. Just clip its foot and then stick it back in there. Yeah, we can go down a little bit there. And that might actually carry it enough to allow it to do the thing. Wire. All right. Let's poke through it where it's already cracked and see. Normally you don't ever want to do this because you don't want to get this stuff in your cylinder, but I'm taking the cylinder apart anyway, so it won't matter. So it shows a little bit of metal, but you still got plenty of metal there, it looks like. So if I do that and then add my gasket sealer, it should be fine. Like that. If I really want to do that. I'll decide after I look at how much these things are. Because I know if you had a leather punch, you could make these really quickly. I don't have one. So for me to make them is going to be a little bit of a pain. But it'll depend on how much they are and how available they are. On what I do. And actually, this needs to go over here. Like so. And before I put this away, make sure nothing else has a stuck gasket on it. Oh, that one does, doesn't it? But I'm not going to clean them up. Not much point in that. All right. here comes the real fun part. You might be able to see what I'm doing actually. I'm just trying to find out where the edge of that is. Giving a little bit of prying, and I'm going along the edge like that. Get back under there. Just going along it. A little bit of prying, but then I go back flat. There's some resistance. A little bit of prying. And I'll keep going forward, just like that. And then it stops. So I'm just gonna gently do that.
Huh.
So it gets it off there, and most of the gasket's still there. It's certainly strong enough to seal it, but it did leave something there. No, that's just a little tiny bit of residue where it was sticking. But that's what I was doing with the knife, going around the thing. And now that I got the gaskets off, and I'm going to clean them one at a time when I do clean them, so that, what do you call it? I can try to keep the gaskets with the individual thing. Now I'm going to loosen this up. Get my blade out. Very carefully stick it back in there. Like that, so we're nice and safe. Tighten the top back up if I can. So unscrew it. There it goes. Put it back in our box so we don't lose it. And then on to the next step. Alright, now I'm looking at the screws that hold the top cylinder part on to here. Because when you try to get the piston out by removing the crankshaft, you have to have room to do that. And yes, you can spin it by hand and move it in there, but that's just pushing it up in there, and it don't really have room to get it off there, so you have to take this part off to get the actual piston out of there to clean it, or whatever you're going to do with it. These are usually tight.
Holy moly.
Which makes it, well, feels like it's a little bit bigger than this size. I'm gonna make sure. Wait, the other one was the other one bigger? Or smaller? I think it was smaller.
I think it was smaller, yeah.
Alright, I'm gonna compare the tips. That one's much bigger. I don't think I have one for a mid-size between these two. So, we're gonna go with it and hope. And be careful. Which means I can't just go whoom, and, you know, crank it because it might strip it out. Just slow torque. Actually get this in between my legs so I can actually get a hold of it and hopefully keep it from going side to side. I could put it in my bench vise, but what fun's that? And I don't know how I'd even torque it there. So here we go. Alright, that seems to be, yep, coming out. So let's do this one. Try to break it loose. Although I do, even though I just talked about how I wasn't gonna suddenly jolt on it, I try to break them off really quickly like that so that it will actually turn if it's rusted or whatever, or just over time it's slowly stuck in place. It'll break that loose and it'll turn the whole thing, hopefully. Versus if you try to slowly turn it, the torque is distributed more, it feels like. At least I don't know for a fact. And it's more likely that the head will come off versus the whole bolt. If you can get it to crack and come off there, then you're usually good. I felt that one release. Alright, that's enough for now. Let's swap sides. I'm so used to there being 4. I'm sitting here like, wait, what? Alright. So right now it's just a delicate balance because you see how I can wiggle it right there? It is not the exact right size. These seem to be pretty decent overall. That one's got some tension on it. Yeah, it does. So I'm gonna go ahead and use my pliers for that. Tear it at my screwdriver. That's okay. As long as the screw comes out. That's the goal. Alright, feels like it's getting better. Okay. I probably Loctited these. Just judging by how it kept. Let's find out. Yeah, there's something on there.
The white stuff again.
That's why it was doing that though. Alright. So these guys had white stuff too. And I was taking those out. And my next fun question. I think those went in the... Where'd those go? Those went into the carburetor, I thought. Right? Yeah. They went right here.
Oh.
Let's put those back before I
I was gonna,
forget.
yeah.
See, a long time ago, when I first started working on these things, what I would do is I would put, and I started on a lawnmower, oddly enough, I would put every single screw in a batch. Like if I took it out of the muffler, even if it's one screw or if it's multiple screws, I would put both the muffler and the screws to it in a single Ziploc bag and label it. I did that for every single part. Well, that got messy real fast because when you have so many different types of parts and screws and things, you get a lot of bags. And then if it takes a really long time for you to get around to it or for you to buy the parts, and waiting for parts could be up to a month depending on where you get it and how much it is and all this stuff. Projects can stretch a really long time. And over time, you forget where things are and you may move things around and, you know, yeah, they'll be there in their baggies, nice and labeled in the order in which you put them in there. But I found myself still searching for baggies as I was trying to put the thing together and trying to keep track of all of them and get them all clean and keep them in their baggies and labeled. And the label, you know, comes off sometimes. It got tedious and it was just messy and took up a lot of space. Yes, this takes up space too, but if I just put the screws back in there, I won't have to worry about it. Because where does the muffler go? On the muffler spot. The carburetors are usually shaped like that. You can tell, sorry, mufflers shaped like that, you can tell where it goes. The carburetors have a hole in them usually because it has to breathe. And it makes the diaphragm go back and forth, which pumps the fuel. So you can always tell where those go pretty much if you have some familiarity with it. And this screw needs to go back up here so I don't lose you. All right. Onward and upward. For me, it's just a lot easier, and I can clean things in batches. Like, each big thing I'll probably do individually, but when I go to clean the carburetor pieces or the breather, I'll just keep all the breather pieces together, put them in the ultrasonic if I need to, take them out, and, you know, wash them soap and water, with what I usually do, and then bring them back after drying them a little bit and set them there. They'll just sit there nice and neat and be ready for me. It works. And it works better for me than just putting everything in little bags. I have no idea why, but it does, so I'm going with it. Oh, why do I have sudden weird tension on that bolt? I don't like that at all. Guess guessing it's more of that stuff. Boy, that is a lot of tension on a single bolt. Alright, I'm gonna make sure we're not mislining it or something. Flip the butter over. Try to keep even pressure on it. I don't want to put undue pressure from other sources, because I don't know what's causing it to do that. That's not good. That extra tension on it is going to wear that screw out, could stretch it, make it harder to use again. That is definitely Loctite. Look at the color. It's not just, I wonder if that is calcium or something. That actually has a color, a pigment to it. So I'm pretty sure that's what that was. Sure was nice of them. I appreciate that extra effort and financial, contribution they made to the stability of this thing. It makes working on it that much easier. Alright. Let's get this aligned correctly. Crank the shaft very gently over. Like that, so it's straight up and down. And then I'm going to try very gently pull this out. Like that. And that's your carbon buildup. All the black. This does have a lot of, that's just carbon. Looks glazed almost. It might be. Probably is. This is from when I put a pick in there. I was trying to figure out what that was because I could see the reflection looked like a copper piece. Some of it just came off. That does not feel like it's very thick. Maybe the combination of the glazing is preventing, it's giving a smooth surface on the bore and it's preventing any oil from going up or down between it, and it's also sealing it really well. But the theory of carbon buildup causing the compression, I don't know. This is my caliper. I don't know if I can probably not. I don't think it's a millimeter for sure. Let's zero it out, switch to millimeters, and let's see if I can measure this properly here. Yep, no. It's so thin I can't even measure it with this. I left my feeler gauges over at my friend's house, or I'd use them to try to compare, to see how thick the carbon buildup is. It just feels like flakes, honestly. I can feel it with my finger, so it's definitely got, a thousandth or two, but it is very small buildup. My guess is the glazing on the inside of the cylinder, since the head has it, has made the bore so smooth that it just can't do that. Otherwise, I don't have any idea. I really don't. But we'll clean it up, and I might try honing it a little bit, get some cross hatching in the cylinder, and then we'll try it again and see where it's at. I was hoping I could measure it, but if it's measurable in any easy amount of way to do, I can't do it with my cheap calipers. They just won't. But anyway, before I try to get that gasket off, I'm gonna have to get the X-Acto back out to show you how the connecting rod connects to this. Is quite simple. Ta-da! And that's the crankshaft. And that crankshaft is connected to flywheel. And it is possible to take that off. I just don't want to. It's keyed. And there's a bearing back behind there if you wanted to replace that bearing. But this one is definitely going really well. Oh wow, it's really got it up in there. I'm gonna ultrasonic it as it is, but these are disassemblable. They have, or at least they usually have, a tiny little there it is, clip inside here, and you can see an opening right there. Almost looks like a wire. You don't reuse these usually. And bigger ones, and even some these size, I have seen them use snap rings to hold the see this connecting arm. That is the big end bearing, needle bearing. You can see the needles inside there that it spins on. And there's also one on this end, on the small end, and it goes, there's a tube basically that goes to the center of this piston head, and altogether it's called a wrist pin. And then of course it's stop of the snap ring, or what they use is steel wire or something in the factory. I might do that, but first, yeah, you can see it coming off. First I'm gonna ultrasonic it, try to soak it, break up some of this stuff. Use a toothbrush, soapy water, stuff like that. And then I'm gonna try polishing this off and make it nice and shiny again. But we got this tore down, which is where I wanted to be. And I'm not going to mess too much with this because this part has all the basically good parts. There's no reason to go into any of it. If you had to take this off, it usually requires a puller or being very coy with a screwdriver or a pry bar. It's held in with a there's a pin in the side of it called a cotter pin usually. This one looks like it's doesn't use a pin, it's shafted. I mean, like if you see this shape that they have in there, that's what the flywheel for the blower sits on. And this probably has something similar, but I don't see it. Usually there's a little tiny cotter pin that holds these in so they stay in sync with the crankshaft. So that, oh wow, you can definitely see the wear down on it. See the difference in color there?
Are we looking down in here?
Yeah. See where it went from silver to copperish looking and then silver again?
Mm-hmm.
That is wear from the bearing and the oil going around it. You can use some emery cloth and clean that up. But I'm not going to worry about it right now. My main focus is going to be on that cylinder and the piston. Just put this over here. Now right on my little desk. Little desk. But, you know what I mean? Alright, let's get this and get that gasket off so I can actually do stuff with that without messing it up. With any hope, but given, I don't know if that was actually tension or whether it was just a Loctite messing with me. When I took this apart and the bolts were being absolute peeves. Because if it was actually that tight, it probably was, at least to some extent, because it held that much pressure. Then I would expect that this gasket is squished to oblivion and became a permanent part of this head and does not want to come off at all. And we will shortly find out. Go up under here. Try some prying. It doesn't want to go. Try some prying. Try some prying. Okay, it's not cooperating. Try over here. Try some prying. Try some prying. I'm getting even with it. And that is just really on there. I hate to do it. Is this? Yeah, I think that's cardboard. Or some variant thereof. It feels like plastic though, it's brittle, it's old. But man, was it holding pressure. So it makes me feel bad if it doesn't want to come off. It has to come off. Maybe. Tossing it around. I'll poke at it. Yeah, that thing is in there for a long haul. Gently coercive without cutting it. You can tell it's going so well. It's very cooperative. Try it here maybe? No. It's back where we were started. Let me see if I can measure the thickness of this gasket. That's a pretty thin gasket, honestly. 0.1 millimeter. Jeez. That shows 0.3. Cleaner side of it. Point four allows free movement off and on of it. I'm gonna guess it's a 0.4, roughly. That is a very thin gasket. It was down to 0.1, but it also makes it very difficult to remove, so yes, that's 0.3. Where it goes down to. Point 0.3 does fit it really well. It's approximately 0.3 millimeters. That is an insanely thin gasket. That's like plastic thin. I don't know how they did that. Unless it is plastic and it's just behaving funky. So I think before I continue, just in case, I'm going to go and look online for gaskets for this thing. And reference 0.3 millimeter. Because if I have to make a gasket specifically for this thing right here, I'm going to have to order new gasket material. Probably. Because I don't have any that thin. Nowhere near it. In fact, I can probably go over here and measure what I've got. Give you a rough idea. Give myself a rough idea. So 0.3 is for metric, and this is a nice smooth edge. 0.7, roughly. Yeah, 0.7. I mean, that thing is probably, I don't know, a few sheets of paper thick. But you get the idea. So, I might have some kind of paper right here. Let's look at that. 0.1. So it's approximately 3 sheets of paper thick. So I guess I'll boot back in whenever I find out more information about whether or not I can get a hold of these gaskets, or if I have to order gasket material and get creative, arts and crafts. Bye.